exploring history, ancient weapons. Look at these beautiful weapons. We'll start with the introduction today. The use of weapons is almost as ancient as humanity. Many early weapons came from hunting tools such as spears and bows. But probably the oldest and most useful weapon is the knife or dagger. A flint dagger from Scandinavia was dated around 1800 BC. Is one of the earliest examples found in Europe, but daggers have been made from stone, bone, wood, metal, and plastic. Today, soldiers are armed with bayonets or combat knives, weapons whose origins can be traced back to the simple dagger. The development of weaponry and warfare runs alongside the development of early civilizations. The Stone Age people moved out of caves and simple shelters. They banded together to form tribes and clans and built villages. Bronze replaced stone and flint for tools, and then iron replaced bronze. People began to acquire valuable possessions such as food stocks and animals, agriculture equipment, clothing, and cooking utensils, and finally, precious and attractive adornments and decorations. For the first time, weapons were needed, not just for hunting, but for self-defense and attack against other humans. The horses, which herdsmen used to move cattle, also allowed armed warriors to travel further and faster than people on foot. Raids and ambushes by horsemen, as well as movements by nomadic mounted tribes, became part of everyday life. To reduce the chance of death or injury, men used shields and armor made from toughened animal hide, wood, or wood strengthened with metal. This ancient equipment forms a model for the plastic shields used by modern-day police to protect themselves from the oldest of weapons, the thrown stone. The breastplates worn by ancient cavalries are copied by the flak jackets worn by many soldiers and helicopter crews today. Tribal raids to steal goods or settle territorial disputes led to the building of fortifications. The fences and ditches built to control wild or domesticated animals were just as effective against raiding parties. Wood was easy to get and to work with, but could be set on fire by attackers, and would rot in time. Stone or mud brick was tougher and more enduring. Today, fortifications may no longer be towering castles, but we still use sandbag parapets, trenches, and bunkers. Ancient weapons relied for their effectiveness on human or animal strength, although heavy shields and armor made maneuvering awkward. Warfare stayed much the same until the late 1800s, when the internal combustion engine was invented. This Japanese warrior wears armor made from bamboo wood. Today, armor is made from plastic or nylon. Let's see here. Then we have a set of key dates. The panel charts the progress of weapons and warfare from the Stone Age of the 1600s. The first weapons, 10,000 to 5,000 BC. Cave paintings in Spain show men armed with bows in combat. 3500 BC. The royal standard of Ur, Sumerian pictures made from shells and precious stones, show men armed with clubs, axes, and spears. 2500 BC, first fortified city, Ur of Chaldees in modern Iraq. 1680 BC, the Hyksos introduced horse-drawn chariots to Egypt. There's a tiny picture here, Assyrian siege towers. Look at that. 1800 BC, flint daggers made in Sweden. There's a Hittite chariot here. Look at that. In 1600, bronze weapons in Sweden and Greece. In 1469, nice, the first record of a battle at Megiddo between Egypt and the Canaanites. 1000 BC, Assyrians make use of iron for weapons. 500 BC, in China, Sun Tzu writes the first book on military theory. The Greeks and Romans. 490 BC, the Battle of Marathon fought between the Greeks and the Persians. Both army and navy are used, and the Greeks defeat an enemy once thought to be unbeatable. There's a Mediterranean galley. Some of the ships they use. The Battle of Cunaxa between Greeks and Persians used chariots with sides near Babylon. The Persians won. It was 401 BC. 387 BC. First siege of Rome by Gauls. The city is burnt, but the government buildings remain. 327 BC. Alexander the Great crosses the river Hydaspes and defeats the Indian king Porus. 216 BC, Hannibal of Carthage uses elephants at the Battle of Cannae against the Romans. It was his greatest victory. 206 BC to AD 220, crossbows widely used in China. Yeah, let's look at the elephant. Nice elephant. Yeah, in Africa we know what elephants look like, but just in case you're not here. In AD 408 to 410, the Goths under Alaric besieged Rome and sack it on August 24th, 410. This is a Roman legionary with the shields they used for that tortoise maneuver, I think. See the animals they used. Before the invention of the combustion engine, animals, usually horses, were used to transport troops, weapons, and supplies. In the Crusades in the Middle Ages, both European knights and Saracen warriors fought on horseback. A medieval knight wore such heavy armor that he had to be lifted onto his horse by crane. Vikings to the Middle Ages. 500 AD. Saxon raids on Britain from North Germany. 778. Battle of Roncesvalles. The Franks under Charlemagne beaten by Basques and Gascons. 700s to 1000s. Norse raids on Britain and Europe. The Norman Conquest. 1066. The Battle of Hastings. William of Normandy invades Britain and seizes power. 1095 to 99. The First Crusade. European Christian armies fight for the Holy Land. 1120. Welsh archers use longbows for the first time at Powys, whatever. 1190. Mongols under Genghis Khan begin expansion south and west from the Gobi Desert. 1330. First steel produced by accident in the Middle East while making iron. 1326. First illustration of Canon appears in manuscripts in Europe. Leet is 1337. 100 Years' War between England and France begins. This is a medieval cannon. It's got a little thingy to protect the guys from archers. It's pretty cool. Technology came around. Gunpowder was probably invented in China in the 10th century. The Arabs made the first known guns in about 1300. From the 1400s, muskets were developed in Europe and were gradually improved to allow them to be carried into battle. Gunpowder and after. 1400. Handguns first produced in Europe. 1400 to 1600. Rise of the halberdiers and pikemen in Europe. Simple breech-loading guns in use. 1411. Earliest illustration of a simple matchlock. 1415. Battle of Agincourt, the last great victory of the longbow. 1420s. Jan Žižka and the Hussites pioneer the use of war wagons and shoulder-fired guns. 1453. Massed artillery used by Turks at the siege of Constantinople. 1500. Metal shot gains widespread use. 1505. First battle-worthy pistol developed in Germany. 1547. Flintlocks developed in Spain. 1595. English begin to use firearms and cannon. 1635. Flintlocks perfected in France. And in 1620, Swedes first use light leather-bound cannon, first tactical use of artillery. So there we have it. You can see the guns. Check the guns. That's technology, baby. Well, that's all we have for today. Up next, clubs, maces, hammers, and flails. Those are not the clubs you go to, ladies.